I have a lot of spooky things to talk about this month. So I definitely dedicated October to spooky media. I read spooky books, I played spooky video games, and I watched spooky movies. And so we're going to talk about them. As always, we're going to start with books. I think I'm going to mention all of the books that I read this month, but I'm just going to talk about 2 of them. For the most part, I enjoyed all of the books that I read this month. So I'm not going to pull them off my shelf because some of them are underneath other books. I should have waited to film this video before putting them on my shelf. But anyway, I read Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I read Rooms by Lauren Oliver. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Teeth in the Mist by Dawn. I don't remember her last name and I don't know where my book is. I don't remember her last name, unfortunately. I'll put it on the screen by this person. And then I read one non-spooky book, which was Fever by Lauren DeStefano. DeStefano. One of those 2. So, the 2 books that I'm going to talk about are, first, Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. This book was just so much fun. It wasn't like actually spooky because it was silly and fun, but it had like, spooky themes. This is about a girl whose best friend has supposedly killed herself just a few days after 2 popular girls in their school have also killed themselves. But she is convinced that her best friend did not kill herself, that she was murdered. So she creates a spell to bring her friend back from the dead so that they can try and figure out who murdered her. And she accidentally brings back the 2 popular girls who died a few days before. So she purposely brings back her friend, accidentally brings back 2 popular girls who are not her friends. And the 3 of them work together to figure out what happened. And it's just so silly and it's so fun and I enjoyed the heck out of it. And then it had like some spooky gory bits as well because she has to be within a certain distance from from her friends. Otherwise, they just look like creepy corpses. and in order for them to look normal and alive, they have to be close to each other. So it talks about how they look disgusting whenever they're not near each other. And there is also like some dark conversations as well surrounding suicide and murder. But overall, it's very lighthearted and fun. The other book I'm going to talk about is the one spooky book that I didn't read. And that's Fever by Lauren DeStefano. First of all, I read this in 3 days, I think. And this is a sequel. This is a sequel to Wither, which I read a few months back with my friend, and we're reading the whole trilogy together. This is a, classic 2010s dystopian YA novel. It's very nostalgic, even though I haven't read it before. The writing style and just kind of like the way the story is told and stuff really feels nostalgic to me. It feels like I'm in my early 20s again, reading these books. I can't really tell you what this is about because it will spoil the first book, but the series is about a world in the future where there's this random virus that infects newborn people. Like, it doesn't affect people who were already born before this virus came about. When someone is born, they have this virus that doesn't allow them to live past the age of 20 if you're female or 25 if you're male. And so girls are stolen and auctioned off to be married, basically. And there's like one man with many wives a lot of the time just to try and make babies, which is silly because they're all going to die by the time they're 20. Like, they're not going to be able to take care of these kids very long before the parents die. But, so anyway, it is about a girl who is kidnapped and brought to this home to be married off with 2 other girls. And they're, treated fairly well, by the husband. The husband doesn't know that they've been kidnapped. He's kind of a victim in it as well. It is about the girl, living in this giant, amazing, lovely mansion. And, for the most part, being treated well. But, and just trying to deal with her new life and also trying to plan an escape. And so this is the second book. And as you can see, I didn't tab anything in this book. There weren't any specific lines or passages that stood out to me while reading it. But as a whole, it was just a really fun, quick, easy, interesting, and captivating read. I can't pick anything out that I think is bad about it. They're just good books, I think. They're just fun and easy reads. I would love to read more by this author if she's written more books. I really like her writing style. It's just very easy and it just kind of sucks you in, which is great. So yeah, I thought this was great. Next, I'm going to talk about my favorite spooky movies from October, which were Scream 5 and Scream 6. And I know Scream 5 is technically just called Scream, but that's confusing. And if you're going to call Scream 5 Scream, why is Scream 6 now still called Scream 6? Like, they're just confusing. And it was confusing trying to find it on streaming. It was a mess, to be honest. I have always loved the Scream movies. I love how campy they are. They're just great. They're like fun horror movies that aren't actually scary or too gory either. And I remember when Scream 4 came out and so many people were really mad about it because they said it was cheesy. And I was like, have you seen the Scream movies? I feel like you haven't seen a Scream movie before. Because if you've seen the Scream movies, you would not be saying these things about Scream 4. So anyway, I hadn't seen Scream 5 or Scream 6 yet. And I finally did. My mom and I had a whole movie marathon and we watched all the Scream movies. And Scream 5 and Scream 6 did not disappoint. They were great. Scream 5, they wanted to just call Scream because it introduces new characters. But you know, all the Scream movies are about new characters. Like, it has the same 3 main characters in all of them. But other than the 3 characters, all of the friends in every single movie are new. I don't know if they know that. But they're all new characters. And, like, I understand that this movie was so that, like, the next Scream movie could be about these characters. You know? Like, the 3 main characters from this movie will continue, and then the other main characters will not. But still, I get what they were trying to do, but, like, just call it Scream 5. But anyway, so Scream 5 is following mostly 2 new characters. And I mean, that's all I can, like, it's the same thing. Like, there's new characters who are being attacked by Ghostface, and all their friends are being murdered. and you gotta try and figure out who the killer is, which is also fun for the people watching to try and figure out who the killer is. That's one of my favorite parts of watching a Scream movie for the first time, is trying to figure out who the killer is. And it still had Sydney and Dewey and the reporter. I forget her character's name. That's weird. Anyway, it still has those 3 characters in it, plus these new characters, and then some of the new characters, the ones who don't get murdered, are in Scream 6. And Scream 6 was full of surprises, I'm gonna say. Scream 6 was great. It had some twists that I didn't see coming, which, especially at the beginning, which was just so fun. I guessed who one of the killers was, which was very exciting for me. And, I mean, that's really all I can say. That's all, like, they're Scream movies. But they were great. So much fun. Definitely gonna rewatch all the Scream movies, including 5 and 6, every October. Like, they're great. I do have a non-spooky TV show to talk about, and that is The Resident. It is a medical drama, but it has very different drama from a normal medical drama that I have ever seen. Like, I've watched, like, I don't know, quite a few medical dramas, I guess. Like, I've watched Grey's Anatomy and ER and New Amsterdam. I've watched a little bit of The Good Doctor. And the drama that takes place in The Resident, mainly in the first 3 seasons, we're on season 5 now, and season 4 and season 5 are, like, kind of going towards, like, generic medical drama TV show drama. But the first 3 seasons, the drama focuses heavily on the politics surrounding for-profit healthcare. And it's really interesting, very enraging, very suspenseful. A lot of, like, it's basically just, like, showing different people who work in for-profit healthcare, not just doctors, but other people as well, and the shady shit that they do to just be able to make more money. And it was really good. I think really well done. And very exciting. And now it did take my mom and I a few episodes to really get into it, because when it starts, it really focuses on the flaws of all the main characters except for one of them. Like, it's following basically somebody's first day as an intern, and pretty much everyone is a horrible person besides this intern. And so it's a little hard to really get into it at the beginning because you don't like any of the characters. They all suck. And I don't really know why they decided to do that, because they don't all suck. They're actually all pretty great people. Like, one of the characters takes quite a bit longer to grow as a person than the other characters, but pretty much all the other characters in the show that you don't like at the beginning are, like, not like that anymore. Like, they, like, it was just like they were like that for the first couple episodes, and then the writers decided to just not do that anymore. It's kind of what it felt like. And I think they wanted to focus on their flaws so that they could show how much they grow throughout the show. But, like, some of the characters grow fantastically, and gradually and very organically. But like the main characters, I feel like they just decided maybe it was a bad idea to focus on their flaws so much. I don't know. So if you're not fully into it in the first couple episodes, it could be because the characters are not great, but that changes. So if otherwise you're interested in the show, then keep going. Obviously, if you're not interested in it, you shouldn't have to watch multiple episodes of a show before you start liking it. You should be able to just watch a show from the beginning and like it. But if you want to push through just a couple episodes, it gets so much better. It gets so good. And it's really good. Even in the later seasons that are not focusing on that kind of drama anymore, and it's just regular personal drama and regular, like, patient drama and stuff like that happens in normal medical dramas, it's still good, especially because, like, we're really close to the characters now. We know them really well and everything, so it's more impactful. But the first 3 seasons were great. Next, I'm going to talk about a video game. I played 2 spooky video games in October. I played Until Dawn, and I played The Quarry. But I'm going to talk about The Quarry, because The Quarry was way better, in my opinion. I really liked Until Dawn. But then we played The Quarry, and I was like, oh no, this is way better. I played them both with my friend. We screen share from our houses on our PlayStations and take turns playing. So anyway, that's what we did. We took turns for both of them. And we played both of them pretty quickly as well. I think Until Dawn we played in just 2 nights. And then The Quarry we played in 3 nights, I think. They're fairly short games, but they're still like 6 or 7 hours. So The Quarry, and I'm pretty sure both games, I could be wrong, I didn't actually do research, but I'm pretty sure they're both made by the same company. They feel very similar in the gameplay, and the storytelling is very similar for both. So The Quarry is about a bunch of camp counselors who are basically stranded at the camp after the last day when everyone has gone home. And they're told by the police officer who basically runs the camp, who is played by David Arquette, which is pretty exciting, that they have to stay inside. There's no way for them to leave tonight, which is unfortunate, but make sure you don't go outside. You stay inside all night and you should be fine. And they're like, that's weird to say. Okay. And then turns out there's a bunch of really scary creatures running around murdering. And you have to not die. You find out what the creature is further into the game, but I don't want to tell you. My friend and I figured out what it was before it was revealed, which was pretty cool. But it's a choice-based narrative game, so there's not a lot of gameplay in it. It's mostly decision-making. Like, I would say, 90% of the gameplay is decision-making. And then there's a little bit of walking and collecting things. And then there's a little bit of gameplay where it'll show you a joystick movement on the screen and you have to do that joystick movement. But that's literally all it is. And it gives you a lot of time to figure it out. And then I think there's 2 or 3 parts where you have to aim and shoot a gun. And other than that, it's just decision making. So it's a great game for people who are new to video games or feel like they're not very skilled at video games. And even if you think that's too much gameplay, it has a movie mode, which I think is just decision making. There's no other gameplay involved. It's just making decisions so that you can still enjoy the story and enjoy seeing what happens depending on what things you decide to do. So it's another one of those games where different things happen depending on what decisions you make. And it's really cool. You play multiple characters who are all played by well-known actors, which is pretty exciting and cool as well. Same with Until Dawn had a bunch of well-known actors in it as well. It's really fun, I think, at least, to play scary video games, because even if it's something that wouldn't normally scare you, if it wouldn't scare you in a movie or a book, it can scare you in a video game because you are playing the characters, so it's happening to you. So it puts you into the situation more than a movie or a book would. And I love that about it. It's so cool. these both things are things that would not scare me if I was watching them in a movie, and they were scary. Like, I wasn't scared when we were done playing the game to, like, go down the hall by myself or anything like that, but in the moment, it's scary when you're playing. And the both games had jump scares. Until Dawn actually had more jump scares than the Quarry, but I just loved the characters and the story in the Quarry better. I thought the story was a little bit more, like, it was a little bit more character based. It had, I think, better characters and just a more interesting storyline as well. But I really, really liked the Quarry, and I would love to play it again, especially because we got so many people killed. We finished the game. I don't think I can say we beat it. We did not complete the objective of the characters. The objective the characters had in the game did not happen. So we would love to play it again, even from, like, the point where things started going really badly for us. From there on, we don't have to play from the very beginning, just to try and save everybody and do the thing that you're supposed to do. But the thing that I really liked about the game, even though we did not complete the objective and we got a bunch of people killed, it had still a fairly satisfying ending, because I find whenever you play a game like this, where if your characters die, they die, that's it, they're not in the story anymore, the endings can be very lackluster because of that. And this had a good ending still, even though it was not the ending that we wanted. It had, like, this cool, I can't show you because it'll spoil stuff, but it showed, like, all of the characters in the game and how they ended up from our decision making. So if they died or if they lived or other things. And it showed, like, a little clip of them either being dead or being alive, and with a little thing on this, like, little, like, writing saying basically what happened to that character and what they're doing now. So that made it more satisfying. So I really, really liked that they did that. And then a non-spooky video game I'm going to talk about briefly, because I've already talked about it in another video, but it's Detroit Become Human, which is the other choice-based narrative game I talked about the robots a while ago. I just want to mention it again because I replayed it several times, and it's wild how many different storylines there are depending on the things that you choose. Like, I feel like there is no game that has this many different outcomes. It's wild. So my mom and I played it completely through a second time and did a whole bunch of different things. Got a whole bunch of new scenes and storylines and outcomes that we didn't get the first time we played. And then we played it again from, like, maybe a third of the way through to the end. Again, more new storylines. And then we did it again from another point in the game, and I can't remember, but far, like, at a certain point in the game, because we didn't want to redo the stuff at the beginning again. And then we did the last chapter again. And stuff in the last chapter can get so different, like wildly, wildly different. And there are still so many different scenes and outcomes that we haven't seen because there's so many different choices and ways to play the game. And it's interesting because certain choices that you make at one point in the game can determine the outcome of choices later in the game. So even, like, if you make the same decision at one point in the game, it can still end up differently depending on things you chose earlier on in the game. Like, it's, I think, the best choice-based narrative game to ever exist. So, there's that. Those are all my favorites from October. Let me know your favorite things from October or your favorite spooky things. And I guess that's all for now. Have a good day. Bye.